we are surrounded by people failing constantly. Now there's intelligent failure and there's stupid failure. The mistakes you're going to make, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It's not a reflection of who you are. The intelligent use of failure is then to say, okay, let's look at the failure and try to minimize the chance of it sinks the boat. So how can I quickly adjust to something? But generally speaking, embrace failure. It's not pleasant. It's not nice, but it is almost inevitable for everyone who's reached anything in life, unfortunately.
Welcome to Risk and Rise, the podcast where we explore the journey of overcoming the fear of failure, embracing risk, and achieving success in entrepreneurship, creativity, and personal growth. I'm your host, Telana Simpson, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey with you. Together, we'll discover the strategies, insights, and shifts in our thinking and attitudes that are needed to turn setbacks into stepping stones and transform fear into fuel for success. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's episode of Risk and Rise. This is my first recording or live recording of my podcast show called Risk and Rise. So welcome to Risk and Rise. We are going to be having a very interesting conversation today with York Zucchi. York is one of those people I've been following for a while, and he's just amazing. York, that you're all over the world doing all these amazing things, and a lot of it is specifically to do with entrepreneurs and startups and small to medium businesses. I was really excited to get you on the show, and what I'd like to start off with is just asking you a few questions just to set like the context, get the conversation going, and then we're going to open up to everyone that's watching us and participating and get your questions. So give us a chance to just get some concepts and some ideas and stories out there, and as we go, we'll be getting your questions in as well. So York, I wanted to just start by asking you, what comes to mind when you hear Risk and Rise?
In terms of the words or in terms of...
Whatever comes to mind. Just...
Well, risk is a very latent topic because we grow up, going, okay, we have to either risk averse, we have to manage our risk as entrepreneurs, business owners. We have to incorporate risk, ride the risk. So risk is a very, very laden word, which I think is very misunderstood because it sounds like risk is all or nothing. Like I take on risk or I eliminate risk. And we'll talk, I think, today also a little bit more about what is risk and how do we incorporate it into sort of our little entrepreneurial adventure. And Rise, it's the ability to take the punches and get up again.
Absolutely. So I wanted to get us a bit of a sense of, maybe you can give us a bit of your story, your background of how you got to where you are today. And specifically, if you have a memory of one of those first failures, the first time something really knocked you off your feet and you said, shoo, this is a...
Okay, I'll tell you something. I'll make it slightly different. I'll tell you all my screw-ups. It's far more interesting because one of my frustration, I guess, with social media, LinkedIn specifically, and it's an understandable frustration. But we're out there trying to look good because we want to impress potential clients. A client, understandably, doesn't want to have to buy from somebody who fails a lot. Or where there's a probability that things don't work out according to plan. Yet, if you look behind the scene, and we work with entrepreneurs in over 450 cities now across 27 countries. So we have a lot of the stats behind the scene, not just anecdotal evidence, but actual facts, including my own journey. And I can tell you failure, setbacks, is such an intricate part of everyday life, not something that happens every 6 months or a year. It's literally everything we do is a bunch of. Am I allowed to swear, Telana? Is this going to be
I'm all for authenticity. Be you.
Oh, awesome. So essentially, the path to building something is on the rubble of countless decisions and actions that we make in a day to day. But that rubble kind of, forgive me for poetic license here, but that rubble builds quite a strong foundation because we step on it. As opposed to, shit, something went wrong, let me move away and go somewhere where the rubble isn't. So I'll try a new door, I'll go start a new business, I'll try a new career and so forth. As opposed to saying, okay, shit happened, I'm going to stand on the shit and compact it. And that's, excuse me, a little bit of a cough from a cold. So my point here is that we are surrounded by people failing constantly. Now there's intelligent failure and there's stupid failure. The mistakes you're going to make, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It's not a reflection of who you are. You know, you might be knocking at somebody's door and it just doesn't work because the timing is wrong. You're a little bit too early or too late with your idea. Something beyond your control that you didn't anticipate doesn't go according to plan and sort of you get that whiplash effect. And so the intelligent use of failure is then to say, okay, let's look at the failure and try to minimize the chance of it sinks the boat. So how can I quickly adjust to something? And now I don't know everybody on Zoom today, what your background is, what kind of companies you run and so forth. And we can talk a little bit more individually around each person's experience. But generally speaking, embrace failure. It's not pleasant. It's not nice, but it is almost inevitable for everyone who's reached anything in life, unfortunately.
Very much. And that's, I think, why we named this, that failure is fertilizer. As you say, it's what you pack into the ground from which something amazing can grow. And it almost feeds it. So why is it then you think that we have this like counterintuitive? We all hear this, that failure is good. We must embrace it. We must learn from it. Failure is feedback. Failure is learning. And yet so many people are so resistant or is scared literally of trying things, of stepping out there, of making a phone call, of starting a business.
So I would argue that it's the impression of failure, because failure, like I say, it statistically happens every day to everyone, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's at work, in your career, whether it's a sport, setbacks, whether it's whatever your hobby is or your business or your, the degree or college you're studying it. You are constantly confronted, whether you're at high school and you got to do homework, by failure. By, okay, try this, didn't work. Okay, try this one. Here, let me give you a bit of guidance. So what happens is that we live in oh my God, this doesn't sound good, in a failing society, but I don't mean it in a failing, as in a society that's built on failure. Yet the perception we're working so hard to create is that we don't have this. So it's a perception. Now, the problem with this is that when you are at school learning a new skill, you don't know the questions to ask. You don't know how to look at something with the relevant perspective that says, no, hold on a second. That setback you had, if you look at it this way, it's actually an opportunity. I was hiking in Spain now in the torrential rain, so apologies for the cough. So the fact that we need constant adjustment, and we ourselves are too much into it sometimes to see with clear eyes what is happening. But because society at large, and it varies depending on the culture, but because society at large makes us think that failure is bad, we don't put up our hand enough. We don't go out on LinkedIn. I mean, when was the last time you saw on LinkedIn a post, hey, everybody, I'm struggling with this. Does anybody have an idea of what I can do? Or, hey, I'm looking for, because I can't find it, a solution to do A, B, C, D. Does anybody have any tip? No, what you see on LinkedIn and the other platform, doesn't matter now, is, hey, I achieved this award, things are going well, close another client, or I'm looking for new job opportunities. So in a way, and I hope we can touch today, is how do you take failure and breach the taboo topic of public perception in a way that's to your benefit? And we can talk about it just now. But failure is all of us. All of us are going through it. Even if you read it, doesn't matter how the world's richest person, Elon Musk, if you read his biography, what was it? At Christmas Day, the night before they got a tender from NASA for SpaceX, he was literally having to decide whether to close Tesla or SpaceX because he was running completely out of cash. Now, in our microcosm, it might be, should I continue with my business? I'm really struggling. What should I do? Am I persistent by keeping going, or am I just being an idiot? And so there's a lot of thoughts, and we can talk about them just now. So if there's one message out of today is, you're not alone. We are all failing constantly. My own journey is a testament to that. I started many things, but in that, when I started the startup tribe that today runs over 450 cities, online academies, there's no way I knew what it'll be today. I mean, those pinball machines where the ball shoots and you shoot in every direction? That was me. Oh, they say, what do you do? We do this. Could you do this? Yeah, we do that. Can you do that? And you shoot in that direction. I mean, I didn't have a website for 2 years because I didn't know what to write on it, what we actually did.
Yes, it's been an interesting journey. And I think that sometimes is part of how it helps us to embrace this idea of failure. Is if we understand that things evolve and it's okay if things change and we don't have to know everything straight away. We can just take the next step. The next step in front of that will come as we go along.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So is there a story that you can share a bit about something that someone else would call failure? Because
I'll tell you the big failure where I lost millions and 7 years of my life. Okay. I co-started a healthcare group that grew, brought investors on. It became a case study used by Harvard and MIT and Stanford around the world. Even the space agency NASA featured us as how to deliver healthcare in Africa. It grew quite nicely. I started thinking I'm so important that I can have conversations with large organizations. These conversations were really going well, except for one problem. Large organizations take 2 to 3 years to make a decision. When you are a small business, we had 1,800 people working in it, but we're still small, managing our cash flow, managing our resources. You don't have the time, the cash flow to do pilots, to do 300 presentations. But large companies want you to start preparing the infrastructure for the potential rollout 2 years down the road. And so you start investing confident that contract will be signed. And your cash burn rate goes higher and higher and higher. And at the end, we realized that, oh my God, we are a few months away from being out of cash. And you think, but how can you not see it? But in the mid, you're juggling so many balls as an entrepreneur that sometimes you go, wow, I didn't see that. You're spread so thinly. And then the board of investors kicked me out. And literally the day after they kicked me out, my mother died. So it was quite an emotional part for me. And that was one of the biggest failures. And then there were lots of others. But I share this to say, no matter how well educated you are, how intelligent you are or think you are, how experienced you are, shit happens. And it's not a reflection of who you are. Sometimes it's just too much to handle and you miss an important thing that you don't realize has a huge effect. And so that's one of many stories. And then I started many other businesses. But the reason why I share this is that the first failure is horrible. Like you feel like shit. You feel like people are going to judge you. They're laughing at you. Your reputation is in tatters. I started officially 17 companies. 2 are left. Actually, 2 are sold and 2 are still going. And the rest failed, including one of them, the healthcare group. Unofficially, I probably started hundreds of companies, but not formally. So what you learn over time is that you don't want to burn cash or 3 years of your time in something without getting some sort of feedback or traction. And so you learn the trick of going to market to say, Telana, if I had this, would it be of interest to you? Put up a website with a shopping cart and have people buy, but they're not actually buying anything, but you can see if they're actually clicking on it. Because of course, when we live in our rooms, we have the best ideas in the world. Our product or service is going to change the world. If only we had funding, of course. So my point here is that you learn after a while that you can try lots of little things to get feedback. Now, that doesn't mean it's always positive feedback, but you launch something and people tell you, hey, this is good. And you perk your ears and go, really? Is it really good? As in good, you like it because you're my friend, or good because you are prepared to take your credit card and pay for it? Mm. And then you put a credit card link and nobody buys. Okay, is it a thing of how I packaged it? Is it the wording? And so forth. So you test it out. And then you realize, hey, I have a product and a service. My 20 people that I asked seem interested. Okay, and how do I find 200 people now or 2,000 people? It's all very nice you have something, but how are you going to bring the crowds? Because now the moment you do social media, publicity, or any kind of sort of marketing, you're competing with very well-funded organizations. You want to do a Facebook campaign, good luck. So you have to think out of the box. So your failures become little micro steps. And if there's an analogy, when you go for a hike, if you're going really fast and you stumble, you're going to fall and hurt yourself. But if you're going nice and slow, especially on uncertain terrain, if a rock is a bit loose, it's very easy to find your balance. And I think if anything, age, we see lack of hair, age brings you is the awareness to slow down a bit. I know we're ambitious, we're hungry, we want to grow a business really quickly, but sometimes it's really okay to slow down. It might be, I'll tell you at one point I was running out of cash when I was kicked out of a company. I started other companies, but I had no money. I put millions into that original business. And my shares were worth nothing, of course, now. And so I took a part-time job where I worked mornings until 2. And then from 2:30 until evening late, I worked on the other businesses. So there's nothing wrong with being realistic about life and saying, okay, I need to pay the bills. And that takes pressure off the other business and trying to force it down people. How many times can I call Thomas to say, why are you not buying my service? And so that's what I mean by getting used to failures, incorporating them, and just using them.
Yes. So it sounds like those failures and those experiences have taught you a lot then about taking risk and decision making, because those I think are important resources that we can learn, or they come from the experience of past decisions and how we make decisions going forward. So I just wonder if there's anything to add there, and maybe just on how you see risk nowadays, having got this strong foundation of all this rubble that you're standing on.
Okay, so I think the word risk needs a little bit of unpacking. What is risk? First, there's no absolute risk. Hey, entrepreneurship is risky. and a career is not risky. Everything carries a degree of risk. You can have a wonderful job. Tomorrow something goes wrong, they retrench you the day after tomorrow without a bat of an eye. So it's not as if one is risk and the other has no risk. Everything we do in life incorporates some degree of risk. And that, in a way, if you come if you find peace with that understanding, and you couple it also with the understanding that no matter where you are at the beginning of your journey, starting a business, or you are wildly successful, the pressure, responsibility, and risk increases, doesn't get less. Because as you grow, you will always be resource constrained. Now you'll hire more people. Now you have people to hire to watch with people. Now you need systems and processes, but you don't have experience in that. So if you find yourself able to cope with the idea that there'll always be a degree of risk and that you'll always be under pressure, then the framework that I recommend to anybody is to say, okay, so rather than wish that there was no risk or wish that there was no pressure, let me learn the tools to cope with pressure.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about one approach, buy this course and, that'll solve all your problems, do yoga, meditation. Do whatever works for you. Like for me, for example, if some shit happens, I go for a 2-hour walk in nature. I listen to podcasts and I just, because of the movement, detox. Then I speak to my wife, Tamar. We have a nice chat. She gives me her perspective. Now I'm already detoxed a little bit. I'm a bit calmer. Then I look at it a little bit more colder. Then I sleep over it. Excuse me. And then that break helps me now to step back a bit and go, okay, it was a fuck up. That's French for failure. And it was a fuck up, but now that I'm past the emotional reaction to it, where did I fuck up? Was it something I personally did? Was it just that client? For example, we pitched to an amazing client in Italy. It was going amazingly well, and out of the blue, they just went quiet on us. We're not out of the running game, but now for 6 months, we're going, what did we do? And you're kind of going, okay, that conversation was going really well, but now it went silent. We did everything right. Could we have done better? Who knows? We're still cooking the pot. So maybe the conversation will pick up in a few months. So figure out how you can diffuse or decouple failure from you taking it personally. In whatever way it works for you. Maybe it's a game of tennis or paddle. Maybe it's hanging out with friends. But not in the social PlayStation or watching a movie. Like something where you're thinking about it, but your body is also exercising. You're bringing oxygen. You're doing some sport. You got to get, because failure, when you take something personally, it activates a lot of elements in your body's reaction that you need to get rid of. Some people say shake a little bit. It doesn't matter whatever works for you. I really don't care. And so once you decouple that, now you can start looking at it and saying, oh, fuck, that was a hard teacher. And that's the biggest lesson. It's very rarely personal. It's not, Nicole, you're a failure. It's, Nicole, how you read the circumstances and the decision you made and how you did it, that didn't work perfectly. Doesn't mean Nicole is a failure. Sorry, don't mean to target you. But it's just a feedback mechanism from the marketplace. So that's a kind of sort of a high level. And I really caution you against wishing for investors or money. So one of the biggest failure reasons amongst people is this constant hope that there's an investor or a big client around the corner who will pay enough or invest enough that all my problems will go away. The probability of you getting funding is at 0, lots of zeros, 1 at the end. If you consider funding as being the cash in the bank, but there's a lot of funding that is not cash. A spare office in somebody's office, or spare desk in somebody's office, a bit of warehouse in somebody's garage, using the tools or the spare truck that they're not using now. Co-working spaces that are owned by a library or coffee shops. There's a lot of things we can use that are considered like investments, but are not cash itself. And I raise all these points just to remind us that the best businesses are built incredibly slowly, frustratingly slowly, one small client at a time. You will not be profitable at the beginning. So you, with a startup idea, knocking it in South Africa, Standard Bank, it's not going to go anywhere, no matter how enthusiastic, how well the meetings go, because you're just two different beasts. You don't have the resources, the human capital, the financial muscles, the financing to handle a client like Standard Bank. I don't mean to against Standard Bank now. So sometimes it's better to have one happy client that pays a few euros a month. And then you have a second one and a fifth one. And when you go from 2 to 5 to 10, your business changes already, because you could before make calls and fix holes and help everybody. And suddenly you go, no, you can't anymore. You're spread too thin. So you can't do everything for the client that you were doing. So it forces you failure, setbacks, because now you're screwing up with some clients. You're not attending, you're not calling them. So it forces you to think, okay, my original idea was to offer everything. I can't. And I don't have funding. So maybe if I narrow the focus, other systems and processes I can introduce. So that slowing down often allows you to really look at your business. And those failures, those fuck-ups you do with clients, those balls you drop, is a wonderful feedback mechanism, but you can't be everywhere. Or they're taking advantage of you before the pricing is wrong. Before maybe you should break up your service in chunks and say, who was it? Recibe, if you want this service, it's so much, we can do it. But if you want me to also do B, C, D, and E, these are the menu items that you can also buy. But you can start cheaply with this, just to mention something.
Yeah, there's so much in what you've just shared there. Yeah. And I also like that you brought up there, because often I think we think of failure as the big one, like when you got kicked off the board of that healthcare, like that's such a big, and you lost so many years of your life, building that, and millions of your hard-earned money. But there are many types of failures. As you said, it's setbacks, it's challenges, it's the small little things that you wish you could do, but you don't get to do. That all form the learning.
Absolutely. I mean, even look at personal relationships. They are built on little fuck-ups, misunderstandings, miscommunications, stupidity, lack of consciousness for each other. But you build on these little scratches. And what makes an amazing relationship, if you look at people who are happily married or happily in a relationship for many years, is their ability to communicate and discuss. So it's like in a relationship, those great relationships are built with lots of little setbacks and lots of compromises. And then, okay, no, well, hold on a second. No, I like my, toothbrush there and not there. I don't know, something stupid. And so you, and the same with the business. But we expect to find the perfect partner, the perfect business, but it's a constantly evolving baby that, we don't have children, but for those of you who do have children, it's a constant fine tuning, saying, no, that's too much. punishing if one should punish, but encouragement, helping, and seeing your little baby business grow into something more stronger and more resilient.
So I want to go back to something you said we could touch on way earlier, which is with your experience. As you said, you've been in so many countries. Your current startup tribe is featured in what was it, 40 countries?
27.
27, sorry, 27 countries. What then that in all those different, are there similarities and maybe are there differences in how all the different cultures are face risk? Because it sounds like a face risk, but also our experience of failure. Because I'm quite interested in one, we've been speaking about how we as entrepreneurs or individuals in our lives deal with our failures, because that's the inner work, it's our mindset and the skills we've got. But I also think we as members of society, as communities, could do better to help people who are trying to step up in terms of how we engage and how we see when someone else fails. So I'm kind of interested to hear what you see in terms of, could we as society be doing more to encourage people? Because we really need more entrepreneurs. I think you're also quite passionate about, we need those small businesses because they will stimulate the economy and create the jobs, and they support families. And it's so crucial that we have more people doing that. So how do we encourage them as a community, as society? And is it different in different countries?
Depends how deep you scratch, then the answer constantly changes. But yes, there are cultural sensitivities. So in some cultures, welcome risk-taking more than in others. That's a high-level statement. So South Africa and Italy, for example, are very similar, where you are part of a community, depending a little bit of where you grew up and in which community you grew up. But some communities don't have a frame of reference. So if you grew up in a family of lawyers, doctors, accountants, doesn't matter, and you're starting a business, the look and the support is going to be one of doubt, of waiting for you to fail. Like I told you so. Not maybe overtly, not quite in your face, but you sense it whenever you talk about it. So as a society generally, however, here's the interesting thing that we found. No matter how little or how much support there is for entrepreneurship or taking a risk, is that many entrepreneurs, when we surveyed them around failure, let me give you the answer in an analogy. It was like going to the dentist. You imagine it so much worse. So the dentist being your community, your family, your friends, your support structure. Hi, everybody. I'm going to the dentist. I'm going to my community because one of my teeth is rotten. So you think it's so terrible until you go to the dentist and a half an hour later, you say, why didn't I do this earlier? Generally speaking, sometimes I want to kill my dentist. But generally speaking, then you come back and you're going, wow, actually, I was supported. The fact that I could speak about it, I was loved. People are not saying, York, you're an absolute failure in life because you failed this business. We imagine this huge thing. So we're going, it's not working out. I'm struggling, thinking our family will think we are the worst human beings ever. And so in our experience, the feedback we got is that once people opened up, the support was unbelievable. And so I wish I could tell everybody, don't be afraid of speaking out and saying, I am really struggling. And then maybe we can actually, Telana, speak a few minutes on tactics, how to use failure in a positive way. So you don't have to tell the world, hi, everyone, I'm a complete failure. Let's be realistic. You want to also use it a bit intelligently. Yeah, so it's not as bad as people think it is when you open up. And And that act of opening up, as stupid and as superficial as it sounds, if maybe your family is not the right people, find other entrepreneurs who've been around the block. I mean, I get a lot of WhatsApps of people saying, York, my business is really not working. And sometimes just being able to share it with somebody that treats it in confidence, it's just so liberating. And then knowing that actually everybody else is going through some shit as well. Suddenly you're going, okay, so, it's not the end of the world. Other people are going through it, have gone through it, and somehow we survive. Not that I'm saying it's pleasant in the moment. So I'm not taking away the pain, the near depression-like status of failure. So it doesn't get totally easy. Like I'm now used to it and I still hate it. I just process it faster. Now I recognize it. I know how to treat it. And then it's just easier.
Yeah, and I've heard that from a few people that I've been having on Risk and Rise, is that the more, and that's how I think the saying fail fast and fail forward comes from, is you're going to have these setbacks and these down moments. It's how fast you can get up again. So find your own ritual, your strategy, find those people who you can talk to that would help you to process it faster, to gain the learnings, and then you can move forward.
Absolutely.
On LinkedIn, we've got Piers said something here, like in some instances, very hard not to take it personally because you pour your heart and soul into the business.
Oh yeah.
And so
yeah.
So I wanted, for me, it's about separating our being from our doing. So not linking our worth as a person to the actual business. But yes, you should have an emotion around the business or what you poured your heart and soul in. It's to separate that I am a failure versus we failed at this activity and it sucks. It does suck. There's emotions. And I think the more emotions we experience, it shows you how important that was. The little blips we don't have much emotion about because they're irrelevant. But the big ones we have emotion because they're important.
No, absolutely, Telana. And Pierre says it beautifully. And I caution you, I'm not suggesting we should become cold-hearted. We put so much passion in what we do. We care about what we do. Of course, we're going to take it personally when it doesn't go according to plan. I'm speaking now from personal experience. Like I take it as a personal insult when somebody doesn't want what we offer. Like I literally get angry. I'm the guy, probably if you had a pizza restaurant, I would be throwing pizzas at people who don't walk into my restaurant, on the street, flinging pizza slices at people. But I don't think it ever gets perfectly easy. It just gets easier. But also remembering that your baby, your business isn't formed yet. And so that's why I say I invite you not to think of failure as a statement of fact, but rather as a feedback mechanism like you would get from a really amazing but very ruthless teacher who says, Telana or Piers, I love you. I think you're amazing. How you did this one specifically, I don't like it. Go back and think differently. And you go, but I thought about it and I've tried every avenue. And the teacher goes, no, you haven't totally. Because all you did was sit in a room on your own, go out and share, get some egg on your face, speak with people. You're selling, I don't know, a product to restaurants. Go speak to the restaurants, and then when they say, no, this doesn't interest me, stop everything and say, okay, Mr. Restaurant Owner, or Mrs. actually, why should we be a Mr.? Mrs. Restaurant Owner, I understand you don't want this and I appreciate it. Can I ask you a question heart to heart as an entrepreneur? What made you not want to get this? What advice could you give me of something I could bring? And maybe it's totally unrelated to what you were doing, but maybe suddenly we say, you know what? if you did something different, I'm actually struggling really in this and this. And maybe it's something you go, I didn't realize it. I wonder if it's true. You go to a second and a third restaurant. So that conversation might kill your original business idea, but it will give a birth to something else. Yes. Amazon, what it is today with, I forgot the percentage, 47% of worldwide revenue from Amazon come Amazon Web Server. It's an online server space. You think Jeff Bezos knew that was going to be the case when he started it? Yet when we look at Amazon, it's the same brand over the years. So we go under the there's a wonderful, actually, look it up with the, what's his name? Lex Friedman interviews Jeff Bezos. And he talks about failures. And Jeff says, I want us to fail constantly. The world sees us as a success. He says, I cannot tell you how many products fail within Amazon. So this idea that I had an idea, that's how it must be because I thought it through. That's where you have to step back a little bit, say, I have an idea for a company that will make restaurant owners happy. I don't yet know what services and products will be offered. Right now, I think I'm going to offer this, but I'm open to other things. When you welcome that, you become less attached to the one vessel in your portfolio. You start going, okay, so they don't like this one. Honestly, I don't care. I want to grow my business. I want to be successful. I want to make people happy. I'll introduce other products. And so that's why, Piers, I think you're right. It is a very personal thing, but try to bring a little bit of distance. Don't fall in love with the actual solution. Fall in love with the end result. You want a happy customer. How are you going to make a customer happy? There's many ways. Some we can talk about and some we can't. Sorry. That's going to be horrible.
Cool. Well, I've got a few questions to kind of end off for Risk and Rise, but just to open up then, anyone who's listening in, just if you've got any questions for York around failure and that. I know, Thomas, you've just said failure is not about getting up after falling. It's the warrior with the shining armor that hasn't seen battle. I don't know if you want to explain, Thomas, or if there's a question related to that.
My opinion on the matter is the minute you stay down, you've fallen. If I get up, I haven't fallen. I've just stumbled. And relating to the warrior with the shining armor not seeing battle, once you've seen battle, it's normally dented and dull and damaged. As fellow entrepreneurs, I've seen it quite ever so often. The oaks that's been around, they don't go being flashy and this and that, and they're willing to tell you, listen, but I've had this issue, I've had that issue, just as York shared with us. And that's where I learn. That's where I pick up things. We need to learn how to become vulnerable with one another. And there it gets, as he said about the village as well. You need to know your audience. I can talk to fellow entrepreneurs, whereas to maybe the family, you mention it to them and it just goes for a ball of, yeah, that's basically it.
Thomas, I'll pick up on that. That's a beautiful point about vulnerability. And the biggest success to the startup tribe, which really I didn't anticipate. I mean, we're on track to become the 8th largest online education platform in the world. And we do this very much behind the scene. We don't do social media. We don't have social media accounts. I think we have a LinkedIn page because our work is via the cities. So if you go to the Cape Town city, the official Cape Town City Entrepreneurship Academy, it's us. Kululeni, Swane, Mossel Bay, Stellenbosch, George. Now, let me tell you how I started this with no funding. I went to actually, it started really with one mayor liking what we did, but it was just 2 courses on an online platform. And then some friends, I persuaded them to create more courses. But with the mayors, I told them, I made them part of our journey. I said, dear Mr. Mayor, we're not perfect. We don't solve all the problems with an online course. And we only have, back in the days, 7 courses. but people like them. It will help them. It will make you look good. Now, don't ask me more than I can do. I don't have a funding. I don't have a financing. I can't stretch. I only have a few hours a day I can work on this. And they loved it. And, you know, there's a chap in South Africa called Alan Race, who does Race Corp. It's an incubator. And he doesn't hire anybody in his company that hasn't gone through a number of failures. I don't know a venture capitalist, for those who don't know, people who invest in companies, who will invest in a company where the entrepreneur hasn't had a few failures behind them. So the reality on the ground is failure is wanted, yet we are still embarrassed by it. So maybe, Telana, if it's okay with you, let me give you a couple of tricks of how to communicate failure in a way that works to your advantage. Now, everybody is on different paths, so you know the entrepreneurial journey, life cycle. You have an idea, you start, you set up a website, you have a prototype, your first 5 clients, 20, 50, 100, oh shit, no, now competitors are coming, now it's going downhill. I have to save the business. That's the ideal life cycle. Sometimes we skip the whole thing and go straight to closing the business. But as you progress, depending where everybody is in the individual journey, there are 3 things you can share publicly that can help you enormously. 1, learn to share what you're working on. So, hey, everybody, I'm doing, I did a garden renovation for a house that is on the market. And thanks to the work that I've done, the house is now sold for more money. We live in such I don't want to share what I'm working on, and behind fancy titles that people struggle to figure out what exactly we do, which kills off potential phone calls of companies that might be interested in working with you. You might not be, if you have a gardening company, meaning it's you or yourself and that's it, but you have a gardening service. You might not win the direct client, but you might have a estate agent who has clients for you. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
So learn to share. Hey, I just met with Thomas and Nicole and Rai Siebe. We had an amazing discussion around creating a community for failing entrepreneurs where we meet once a month in some restaurant. Does anybody want to be part of this? Share what you're working on much more regularly in plain English. The second thing, share what you're struggling with. Now, you don't need to say you're a failure necessarily, despite my advice. But for example, you know, I understand that we need to be a bit important online. You know, we need to show that we are on top of things. It's okay. Let's live in that delusional Instagram-like world. So maybe share something. Look, we're working on a specific project, but I'm struggling to figure out how to finance the purchase of the raw materials for this project because it's across the whole of Gauteng. So share. You see what I'm doing? I'm not saying, fuck, I don't have money. I'm saying, does anybody have an idea? You won't believe the amount of cross-pollination from other entrepreneurs or financing houses. Says, well, actually, if you have a client and the client is bona fide, for example, in Johannesburg, Profit Share Partners is an amazing organization that if you have clients, they will finance your supply chain. And there exist solutions. And the third thing that I can recommend is share what you're looking for. Hey, everybody, I have a fresh vegetable stand in Khayelitsha, but my vegetables come from another area. I really don't know Cape Town that well, or the Western Cape, but let's say Stellenbosch. I can't afford the pickup truck. Does anybody know, or I'm looking for anybody who has spare capacity on their truck twice a week at this time to bring cabbages? I don't know. So when you share, like it could be something as banal as silly as, look, I started the business from home. It's now growing a little bit, but we don't yet have the capital to rent and put deposit our own space. Does anybody have spare office where we can contribute to the Wi-Fi and coffee that we can use? You won't believe somebody might have spare desks and they love having more people in there. You just don't know. We live in the exchange economy. So these are 3 little tips I can give you to show off a little bit and invite people to, and you'll see when people pick up the phone and call you, new ideas pop up, new doors open. You might become a service provider to a company that has a client, but doesn't know how to deliver parts of that service. And that's fine. It's a form of entrepreneurship.
Yes, and that's the power of being vulnerable, as you're saying, is being able to share authentically what you're working on, what you need help with,
and what you're looking for. Absolutely.
What you're looking for.
And do that, by the way, at least twice a week, no matter how small the thing. But don't say, I'm looking for investors or I'm looking for clients. That's too generic. You might, another trick I can give you on social media, let's say, I don't know your individual businesses, but let's say you wanted a foot in the door because you needed an introduction at Old Mutual. I'm just saying Old Mutual. But it can be a restaurant owner. Like, for example, we want to expand in America the other day. And I know one way to expand our online academies is via churches in America, because they're enormous gatekeepers of communities, as opposed to via government and municipalities. So I put, does anybody know a church leader that wants to really support their congregation that is based in the US? We would love to, and we're already starting. We're launching, I think, beginning next month. So all I'm saying, sometimes it might be something as simple as, look, I've got a solution for restaurants. I'm not looking yet for clients. Does anybody know a restaurant owner whom I can have a coffee with to get some feedback? And that, by the way, creates a wonderful relationship where that restaurant owner might adopt Raiceba's idea and become her informal mentor. So you never know what doors open. Just ideas.
And some useful ones. York, I have a segment in Risk and Rise where I'm trying to highlight certain resources for startup entrepreneurs. So I'd love you to just share a bit about the Startup Tribe and how people can get access to it if they feel it's something that could help them.
So Startup Tribe is an online academy with short practical courses that are completely free of charge. There's no adverts, there's no membership, there's no subscription. There's nobody selling you anything. What these are is, for example, how to find your first 10 clients if you just started your business, how to deal with setbacks, understanding how the economy works, figuring out what you're good at, how to have difficult conversation with your co-founders. These are 15, 18-minute short courses, and they're available everywhere online. So if you're in Swane, you go to just Google Cape Town Entrepreneurship Academy. Thanks, Raiceba. But just Google Cape Town or Swane or Ekululeni Entrepreneurship Academy. Go online, take the course you want. Just keep in mind, these are not 2-week courses. These are short courses with 6, 7, 3-minute lessons to help you get unstuck. So that's what we do. It's free. There's no commercial angle. And that, I think, is also a message that I want to leave you with, is that sometimes we live in our heads, in our world so much that we think we need. 70% of all our students don't finish the courses. And I told you there's a short courses. So about 2 years ago, we did a survey and said, excuse me, we asked 5,500 people, are we doing something wrong? You don't like our courses? And they say the courses are great. So I said, what? So why are you not finishing them? He says, I didn't need to finish it. Lesson 2 was enough to help me go, oh, now I know what to do tomorrow morning. So my point here is find inspiration. Don't be worried about finding the final solution to all your problems. Just start something. I told you before, go for a walk, play tennis, jog, listen to podcasts, speak with friends, go attend a workshop. Find something that gets you out of your head. And the moment that happens, you are intelligent enough, your brain will suddenly go, hold on a second, maybe there's another angle I haven't looked at. And so do not underestimate the power of you, yourself, and your abilities, but just give yourself, be nice and kind to you in the moment. So yeah, so the Startup Tribe is free for all, and you're most welcome to take any course you want. And if you don't like something, just write to me personally, and I will ignore you with 100% passion.
Great. So, and how can people get hold of you, York, if they want to?
LinkedIn, I'm available. I'm happy to put my email as well. I just, with 400 emails a day, I don't get to reply to everybody. But I usually reply to LinkedIn comments. I'm sometimes on Twitter. But you shouldn't get hold of me. I mean, if you need a sparring partner, by all means, drop me a message on LinkedIn. Really, I will answer you. But don't use me. Use the people around you. Take the courage to put up your hand and say, Telana, I know you do this. I do this. Can we not collaborate? Or Nicole, what are you working on? I'd love to chat with you. Ooh, look, I'm struggling a bit. Is there space for me to work with you? There's many ways. Go into, put up your hand. Don't be afraid to change your mind, change course. But if you're totally stuck, sure, drop me a message. I'm happy to give you some direction. But remember, my journey is not your journey. So all of us have different circumstances, different paths. So what I experience might not be applicable to somebody else. So always take people's advice with a pinch of salt, but certainly reach out.
Great, thanks. So I've got some rapid fire questions just to end up on a bit of fun. What comes to mind now, after all our discussion what comes to mind when I say failure?
It's like talking sex. It's like when people say the word sex, we all go, oh, alarm, or we talk about money. It's such a taboo topic. I actually don't like the word failure. I like to have, I don't know what we should replace it with, but I actually invite us all not to think about failure per se, but rather learning experience, maybe. I know this sounds a bit wonkish and hug each other, but now my brain says failure is good. I welcome it. I kiss it. It doesn't kiss me back. Sometimes, well, that analogy was going to go off the chart. Yes, Thomas, replace it with opportunity. But, okay, let's keep it nice and decent. Replace the word failure with something else, and don't be embarrassed.
What's your secret weapon for bouncing back from a setback?
What I say, go and do physical exercise. Now that's specific to me. I love that. But generally there's medical research that shows that oxygenation of the body and exercise helps enormously with deal with a lot of bad situations in life. Even so, our instinct in the moment is to sit at home and do this. But you got to go out.
Yeah, not just put your head in your hands, but rather move your entire body. What's the most important lesson that you've learned as an entrepreneur?
That you have no clue what your service or product really is or is going to be like for a long time. So don't wait until it's perfect in your mind. launch something. If you don't have a funding, go to WordPress or Wix, launch a website for free, send it to a few friends and see how many people click on the buy link. Or, make a mock-up, put a brochure. I had business cards that I tried in a conference. Hi, I do this, to see how many people would respond or say, yes, you do that. I actually need to talk to you. Nobody talked to me. But all I'm saying is there's many ways you can test things. So because it's a journey, go out, test it, get feedback immediately, tweak it, discard it, move on. That's my advice.
What is the best advice you have ever received as an entrepreneur?
I listen to everybody, but I listen to everybody not as a gospel, as a Telana, what you say is what I must do. Like, okay, what you say, Telana, I didn't agree with 2, 3, and 4, but number 1 was really good. Thomas, what you said on point 3 was really good. So learn to think critically and use everybody, really use everybody for inspiration. So, yeah.
And last one, what inspires you to get out of bed in the morning?
Okay, that's related to my addiction. So it's coffee. So I literally, yeah, like coffee, but now I don't make it at home. I've about 20 minutes walk from here, 18 minutes is a wonderful little coffee shop. So I go there and that gets me going. So that by it, yes, I lose an hour, but by the time I come back, my brain is now active. And so that's how I trick myself. And also I trick myself by making public statements. For example, I'll give you an idea. We launched recently in Kabul, Afghanistan, with a major organization to 1.1 million girls, an academy, because in Afghanistan, girls over 12 are denied education. So we launched it. But it was a few months back, I kind of said, I'm committing to this publicly. I have no idea how we're going to do that. But by committing publicly, I put myself under pressure to deliver. It doesn't, by the way, always work. But so that's how I work. So everyone must figure out what works for them and figure it out.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for listening in. And like Nicole said, it's been a very interesting, York, to hear from your experience. Maybe just to wrap up, what is your parting thought then, especially for those people out there that are hesitating in starting something, whether it's starting to write a book or offer a new service or get on social media or start an actual business? What would be your parting thought to help them to get going, especially if they're struggling?
Logo. Yeah, just copy
Just
Nike.
do it. Yeah.
Just do it. And don't worry about funding. Don't worry how unprofessional, how crap it is. You have an idea for a new service, create a website for it. Really, really just launch it. Oh, it doesn't get traction. All right, no problem. On to the next one. It's okay because you learn from it. It's not a failure. It's testing an idea. Oh, okay, this one didn't resonate with that audience. I'll give you an idea. So it took us 2 years to write our website of what we do. And I had to pay a friend. I paid her because I wanted to pay her, who actually write it for us. I had written 9 pages for what we do. If you see it today, it's got 3 paragraphs. That's it. That's it. With a call to action. Sometimes we're too deep into our businesses to understand the value we provide. So, just do it. Go out, test things, ask for help, ask for feedback. If you're on Facebook, hey, everybody, if I describe this way, would you want to call me? Get feedback from people. And they might say, what a shitty description. I have no idea what you do. Oh, okay, good. Change it. And if I did this, that's better, but it doesn't yet. until you get, oh, wow, you do that. And by the way, the last absolute tip, your email address, your WhatsApp status, if you're an entrepreneur, change it immediately. Every email you send out should have a signature that says, hey, I don't know, are you selling your house, but your garden is looking like shit? I can make your house look like $1 million if you're a gardener. You see, my point here is use every opportunity to advertise what you do, even when you're not even sure that you're doing it. Just an idea. You have no idea where the leads come from.
Well, thank you so much, York. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing with us
Telana,
today live.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thomas, Nicole, and everybody else, thank you so much for your time. And do reach out on LinkedIn if there's anything I can help with.
And this has been Risk and Rise. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of my podcast called Risk and Rise. Please do find us on your favorite podcast app and give us a like and follow us there as well. It does help us to share stories like this and information that can help us all learn to risk and rise together. Thank you for joining me on Risk and Rise, where we face fears, conquer challenges, and rise above adversity to achieve our dreams. Find out more at riskandrise.co.za. Great, everybody.
Fantastic, Telana, well done. Are you on Spotify?
I'm on Spotify, yes. And
I'm going to search for you right now.
Risk and Rise. So yes, it'd be awesome.
Got it. And I am following you now.
Super. Awesome. And we'll say goodbye then to everyone. And I'll end the live stream now.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye.